Hello and welcome to the Outside the Cockpit Rolex 24 at Daytona preview show. My name is Sam Donzik, not Jack Shanlin. I was just about to say your name. I'm joined by Jack Shanlin. How are you doing today, Jack?
Great, Sam. How are you?
Doing pretty well. I'm excited. This is I'm coming from a Formula One background, so I haven't really watched a lot of 24-hour races in my time, but I'm excited to watch my first one. So, what can we look for really this weekend? Who's to watch for? Yeah, let's start with that. Who's on the radar for this weekend?
Well, first, welcome. 24
Yeah,
hour racing's awesome.
yeah,
There's nothing like sitting down and watching the whole 24, or at least as much as you can, because sounds, especially at Daytona, are crazy. And I would encourage you to look on social media for photos during the 24 hours because just some of the shots are crazy. Like, I don't know if you know this, but Daytona has a Ferris wheel in the infield.
Oh,
And
okay.
so when they race at night, people take panning shots while they go through the Ferris wheel. And it's like, there's this famous one. It's called like Pac-Man eats car. Because if you do it perfectly right, you have a triangle of light from the Ferris wheel and the car is going into it. And it's
Oh,
awesome.
I see.
So it's a really special race. 24 hours is special no matter what, whether that's
Yes,
Le Mans or
indeed.
Spa or Daytona.
For sure.
And as far as what to watch for, just listen to what the announcers say because they're geniuses. They're all incredible. And so they'll be really telling you exactly what you want to watch and they'll be showing you what you want to watch.
For sure.
And then obviously the number one Cadillac is too stacked. Both the Cadillac teams are too stacked. Like for the number one, you have Bourdais, Dixon, Palou, and Van der Zande.
Yep.
And that's just gross. Like Dixon, obviously IndyCar champion, Palou, obviously IndyCar champion, and Bourdais raced in Formula One and raced in IndyCar.
Yes, indeed.
A whole lot of talent. And Van der Zande is the endurance guy on that team. He's done it all. He's raced it all, and he's won it all. He's incredible.
For sure.
And obviously, this whole DPI class, it's just filled with big names like this. The number 10 Acura car.
Yeah.
That is those are a couple of veterans, Alexander Rossi, IndyCar driver, Ricky Taylor, Felipe Albuquerque. They are endurance champions, legends. They race these races a lot and they know what they're doing.
For sure.
Just through the whole DPI class, big names, Castro Neves, Simon Pagenaud, Kevin Magnussen, Marcus Ericsson, guys from IndyCar, Formula One. You can't miss out if you watch DPI because the competition is always tight and crazy things happen, and those cars are really fast.
Yeah, no,
and then
for sure.
Moving down, go for it, Sam.
No, it's again for sure because looking at just the practice results from both like the LMP2 and the DPI cars, they're I'd say they're at the same level, but they're pretty much fair. Like they're really, really quick around that track, especially because again, it's the Daytona road track that they're going on for the 24 hours. It's not just like the loop. So, and I guess obviously Min Chung posted a video to our socials about like the lap round with an LMP2 car, and it was really interesting. So I think it's going to be super fascinating to watch for me for the first time, and I'll try to stay up as much as I can, drink lots of coffee and stuff like that, to watch all as much as I can. But yeah, no, it's going to be super exciting for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome, and like you said, they're similar, but they're very different. So what changes is when you go to DPI, you have big names on the car. So like you have Acura, you have Cadillac. Yeah, so right in this year we have Cadillac and Acura. Mazda used to also run DPI sometimes.
Yep.
But they pulled out, I think, starting last year. But when you move into LMP2 and below, you start getting names that you may have never heard of. A lot of people haven't heard of Orica or Dallara or Ligier, like chassis companies like that a lot of people haven't heard of starts coming into play for LMP2 and below.
Yeah.
And so the other thing about LMP2 is it's a mix between pro drivers and not necessarily fully pro drivers. So like for example, the Dragon Speed team, car number 81, they the team of Colton Herta, Eric Lux, Devlin DiFrancesco, and Patricio Award.
Yeah,
that is obviously a stacked team. Herta and Award are IndyCar
race winners,
not rookies, but both have won lots of races.
Yes, indeed.
And they're the young guns, right?
Yeah.
They're out there, they're battling Scott Dixon, the 7-time champion, for every race win, you know? So that's gonna be a car to look for. I don't know how much endurance racing anyone in that car has done before, but they
Really,
obviously
yeah.
have the talent, but it's a whole other ball game. You know, racing for 6 hours or less, usually way less in IndyCar, to racing 24 straight is a whole other game, and it's not just driver ability. The car has to last too.
Yeah.
And so if you look at these LMP2 charts, you may or may not know a lot of the names, and that's just because there's 61 cars in this race. So that's a lot of drivers, right? 61 times 4.
Yeah.
A ton of guys, right? And girls.
Mhm.
And, you know, the competition, so some people haven't watched Daytona before. There's multiple classes racing at the same time. And there's the
Yeah.
overall champion, which will be a DPI car, will be the fastest. But then you can win each class, and there's podiums for each class. So, but when it gets really interesting is when you have a GT car, a
For
GTD
sure, yeah.
car, being lapped by DPI cars, right? So
Yeah.
DPI cars are a lot faster than GTD cars, and so that really plays a big role. When you are in a DPI or LM car, you have to work your way through traffic almost every lap.
Yeah.
Right. So that's when it gets really interesting, because it's not just your ability. It's not just your car. You're now relying on people in slower vehicles to not crash. You have to get around
Yeah.
them, not slow you down. So it gets really interesting and really tight.
Well, for sure, because it's interesting enough. It's like even when you're driving, I mean, like I wouldn't say, but when you're driving on the road and you're trying to pass someone, it's hard enough. But when you're both going super fast, like when you're going
Yeah.
150 miles an hour and they're going like 100 miles an hour, and you're trying to make a pass with someone right
Yeah.
behind you, and you're trying to get past like 3, 4, 5 cars to get through the traffic,
Yeah.
it's a whole different ball game. Like I mean, like we see it. I didn't say we don't see it as much in F1, but it's not the same level to this level. And I think you talked about it before, is the battle between the GTG and the GT Pro car, or I believe the GT Pro, the class, those two classes is going to be really tight all throughout the 24 hours. So that's going to
Throughout
be
the
something
whole
definitely
thing.
for
So
sure.
I was just going to move on to that.
Yeah,
And
for
just
sure.
for
Yeah.
drivers, one more I saw on the list that I wanted to touch on. Where to go? Ed Jones is running an LMP2 car. He is an IndyCar driver.
Yep.
And getting now into GT Pro, Kyle Kirkwood. He is the Indy Lights champion, the reigning Indy Lights champion, and he's currently getting ready to go into IndyCar next season. And he's running in a GTD Pro car. So to talk about GTD and GTD Pro, GTD Pro is on paper the higher class, and it's factory back teams. So you have WeatherTech Racing, Porsche Racing, Corvette Racing. So you're back from a factory, or not. Like you don't have to be, but most of the higher, faster teams are. And then you are all the drivers are considered professionals, or at least 2 of the 4, I think, are considered professional drivers. And then where that varies with GTD is you can have a professional, but more or less it's like a pro-am kind of situation.
Right.
You'll have one pro, or who used to be a pro or considered a pro, and then am support drivers.
Because it has to be fair to a certain level, because you can't just have a bunch of like 4 pro drivers in there dominating the class, like knowing how to drive for sure, knowing how to drive a certain car like that. So that's going to be definitely interesting to watch for.
And so that is something that we're really lucky to have in endurance racing and in sports car racing in general, because I'm sure you've heard the term gentleman driver before. But that refers to a driver who has a different job, right? Like driving isn't their career, and they pay, or sometimes don't pay, to drive in certain races. And so when it gets interesting in Le Mans or in Daytona as well, it'll be a pro-am setup. The pro will sometimes put the car into the lead, into like leading the class. And then the gentleman driver will sometimes get in and crash. And so then that's it, right? And so as a pro, you're thinking, why did I do this? I drove an epic drive and put my team in the best possible position, and then someone who paid to be here is just ruining it, right? But that's the beauty of it in some ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is why winning Le Mans or Daytona or Spa or Sebring is so special sometimes, depending on what class you're in, and it's always special.
Yeah.
But it's so special because you can combine someone who's getting paid to do what they love and someone who's paying to do what they love and bring it together and win a really prestigious race.
Oh, for sure.
And
no,
so that's
100%
super
agree.
special.
Yeah. I think as well, I think it's interesting as well, the fact that you brought up the money aspect of people just paying like the gentleman driver, which I find is interesting because I feel like there should be like, I mean, obviously they're skilled drivers enough. Like they know how to, like they can't just like nobody, no person could just, with any amount of money walk in, say like me, like if I had like whatever it takes and like, oh yeah, I want to go race in like Le Mans or race, they'd be like, no, not enough money for you. You have to be an experienced driver, obviously.
Yeah, no,
but,
it doesn't work like that,
Yeah. But it's
I want to say it was 75. I don't know if this was the first form of gentleman driving. I'm sure it wasn't, but at Le Mans, the Whittington brothers from the States actually just went over without a plan to drive. They just said they wanted to drive and paid cash to a Kramer Porsche team and won it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, and they didn't even have a plan. They just flew to France and were like, screw it. I'm going to bring a boatload of cash with me. And we're going to figure this thing out, right? Obviously, it's different today, a lot different. But
for sure, yeah.
it is that aspect of money. And so diving into some of the names racing in GTD and GTD Pro, I just mentioned Kyle Kirkwood, Zachary Robichon. He is an incredible driver. He's in GTD. I believe he's Canadian. And obviously super talented. He's in GTD. And I know he's in a Porsche. Yeah, Right Motorsports Porsche, and he's a fast guy. He's raced in the Canada Porsche Cup before, GT3 Cup.
Right.
I've seen him race several times, and he's fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
Who else in here? Austin Cindric. He's currently moving up to the NASCAR Cup Series for next year. He was the best driver in the Xfinity Series, more or less, until the final race where he got passed in the last lap to lose the championship. That was tough for him.
Yeah.
But he's racing for Proton USA in the Rolex, so obviously excited. And he's moving into Penske equipment for the Cup Series. And
that should be him.
Look for him for a rookie win next year. So
yeah, that's something we can definitely highlight for the first NASCAR race coming up soon. Actually.
Yeah,
race,
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah, at the Los Angeles Coliseum.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Oh, the Clash is this weekend or next weekend?
It's February 6th, yeah. So 6th, it's not this weekend. So yeah, next weekend, yeah. So next weekend, so.
And that will be interesting. That's gonna be.
Yeah, I saw photos of that circuit, and it looks very small. So it's gonna be.
And that's short track racing. We all knew it was gonna be small. They weren't gonna put it in super speedway, but I've been talking with some of my NASCAR buddies about this, and
the contact.
It's not for us.
No,
the Clash isn't for us. It never really has been.
No,
when it was at Daytona, it was always for us because who doesn't want to watch a race at Daytona?
Yeah,
but this is a race that is meant to bring people into the sport to gain new fans. Yeah, NASCAR put out a figure this week that said 70% of the tickets they've sold to the Clash are fans that have never been to a NASCAR race before and who are new fans.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the whole goal of the Clash, and especially this one, putting it in LA, putting it in the Coliseum where you don't race, is going to be something to see. We have the next gen cars, which is
for sure, yeah.
Which is going to be interesting to see how they perform for the first time in a racing environment.
Yeah.
And then I think 2 or 3 weeks after that, we have the Daytona 500. Which
that's
is the last weekend in February, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's going to be fantastic. I'm sure we'll have a live show for that to chat about that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Give my predictions and things like that.
Yeah.
All right. Moving down this list. Yeah.
Going back to this. Looking at some liveries. Obviously, going to the spotters guy. What do you have? I don't know. I haven't looked at too many liveries, but we'll definitely just take a look to them. See what is your favorite livery from the weekend so far. It's hard. This is so pull it up here. So let's just So this is like all the different cars you can see.
Yeah.
From the different classes.
So the DPI cars are always nice. Like those,
Yeah.
they're just bare carbon. Those things are beautiful.
Yeah.
I really like the JDC Miller Cadillac number 5, that gold and black.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. They're all nice, especially in DPI. I would, if I have to, put out my least favorite, which would be the 48 Ally car.
Yeah, the pink. I don't know.
I
The
don't
pink just,
like saying that because I love Jimmy Johnson, and Ally's been a longtime sponsor of him, and they've taken over Alex Bowman in NASCAR. But I cannot stand the Ally liveries, and I hate saying that, but I cannot stand them. And it's not Ally's fault. That's their logo, that's their colors, and they pay the money to put it on the car. But I'm not too big of a fan of it. But that car,
it's like a BWT car where it's like a pink Mercedes, and they're like the pink Racing Point. Everyone called it the Mercedes, but it's just certain colors don't go as well. And I hear it as well with the F1 is that Aston Martin was it was a different. I don't know if it was Aston Martin or somebody was going pink or green, but looking at this list, I would have to agree with you. Number 5, the black and gold, is really clean.
Yeah.
I would also, I don't know, I like that 13 car, the Orlando, the yellow and black. The black and yellow looks pretty clean to me.
What class?
I think it's the Orica, so it's an LMP2 car.
Which number would you say?
Number 13. Number 13, the 13. Orlando.
Oh
car.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I would say, I don't know what I'm trying to think of else.
I believe.
What are the cars? I think the WeatherTech car looks really nice as well.
They always have nice liveries. So going back to that 13 car, that's actually AWA, and they are a Canadian racing team actually.
Oh, okay.
Based not too far from us.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, 2 Canadians.
So
2 Canadians on the team, and then
let's see what other United Autosports. Obviously, you know that's Zach Brown's team.
Yeah.
And they're always fast, but they're not an IMSA team. They are a cherry picker team, and they just come in here to give it their best shot and win. And they often have very good drives.
Going down the list,
52 Wins car.
Yeah.
For those of you who know, maybe outside of Formula One who watch other racing, Wins is a legendary livery. It has been around since, I would say, the 80s, if not earlier. And always a pleasure to see Wins back on some cars. And this 29 Jumbo car is really cool. I'm a big fan of that livery. And let me see if I can actually pull it up. At the track.
Yeah, I'm just looking at
Daytona. They've put some sort of, I don't know what they've actually put it on, but it's like the eyes from the movie Cars.
No way.
They split it into the windshield of that Jumbo car, and it looks hilarious. And I'm a big fan of it. I just gotta find if anyone has posted a photo of it.
Yeah, looking at some of the other liveries here, I really like this Gilbert, the GKM Motorsports, the Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo car with that like silver, blue, and black. It's just super clean. It looks like the classic Mercedes. Number 32 with Mike Skeen, Steve McCallar, Scott Andrews, and James Davison. So that's on the second page. So number 32.
32.
Yeah, the Mercedes, the Evo. So the
it's a GTD car.
Yeah, GTG car. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a nice livery layout. Let's move down. Was there any on the top sheet that I want to talk about? Obviously the Dragon Speed is really nice. I'm a big fan of that. It has Kamoa, which is a longtime Fernando Alonso sponsor. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the Corvette liveries too. Ooh, I want to shout out this number 9.
The number 9
GTD Pro.
Yeah.
That is a FAF Motorsports team. They are the GTD champions from last season, and now they're stepping up to GTD Pro.
Is it on the third page or
first page, bottom right?
Oh, the 99.
They are just the 9, and they're a Toronto-based team as well. So good luck to them, and they have a really good driving squad with them this year.
Oh,
So
yeah. I don't see a 9. I only see a 99 unless I'm missing a. Oh, then I see it there. Okay, the 9
yeah,
there.
the
Okay.
GT3R. Let's move down to the bottom page.
Yeah, bottom page. So this is
The Ray Hall
the.
Lanigan cars, really
Mhm.
nice. I'm still a little bit torn on the new generation of the M4 GT3 cars, but
Yeah, because that's debuting this weekend. The BMW car is
yeah, and
debuting this weekend. So
I haven't quite seen them in person yet, so I'll wait till I
I
see them in
mean,
person to make a
one livery that
judgment
I
call.
definitely want to point out. It's a little. I'm gonna zoom in here because it's just caught my eye here. Is the where is it here? This car here, the RS1. I don't know. I do not like that green color. I'm
Where
sorry.
is it?
The 28 on the screen here.
Third page
Yeah,
or
third part. It's a Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 RSCS, the one with Steve McAleer and Eric Figueres, the RS1.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
just something about that green just doesn't really appeal to me for whatever
You're not
reason.
liking
So
it, huh?
I don't know. It just, I mean, like, again, it's hard because it's like this is like a paper version. So maybe when I see
Yeah.
it in real, when I watch the actual race, it might look better in real life. But
Yeah.
just going off of this, it just doesn't seem to be the best vibe for me. But
Yeah.
and then of course you get the 4 or the 3, sorry, the 40, the 41, and the 42, the pink Mustangs. That's an interesting
Yeah. So
color for a Mustang. So
about that. So if you see, so those are actually NASCAR lineups for those
yeah.
pink Mustangs. So Haley
Mhm.
Deegan, she is an incredible truck driver in the truck series. Chase Briscoe is a Cup guy. Harrison
Yeah.
Burton's moving up to Cup this year, and Cindric's moving up to Cup this year. And they're all fantastic drivers.
For sure.
Going
Yeah.
back
That's
to
a
the
good
car
year.
that you didn't like, what was over there, 28?
Yeah.
That car actually won the Michelin Cup race today.
Really? That was the cup that won?
The 4-hour endurance race. And on that note, I'd like to shout out Robert Wickens and Mark Wilkins for getting third place in the endurance race today. And obviously, for those who know, Robert Wickens was making his return to racing, which was incredible to see, and just so happy that they were able to make it on the podium. And
For sure, yeah.
what they did with that car is awesome. They have
Mhm.
full hand controls set up for Robert in the car, and they're drive-by-wire. So when Wilkins, sorry, their names are very similar. When Wilkins gets in the car, he can actually flip a switch, and it goes to the pedals on the floor. And then when Wickens gets back in the car, he can flip another switch, and it will go back to his hand control. So he has throttle and braking at his hands.
Really? I don't know how that's interesting. And knowing, I mean, I would be interested to see, I would actually want to try to see how well that would work or not. If that would, like, just to try that out, because usually when you're driving, you just use your one foot. Like when you're driving, you're really just like you have gas and your brake and stuff like that. And it's on like any of your pedals and your gear shifter for sure. But that'd be interesting. So one thing is also, I know you want to talk about was the endurance classes as well. So what are we looking for this weekend with the endurance classes?
Yeah, so let me just zoom out this spotter thing real quick. So the GTD and the GTD Pro cars are more or less the same.
Yeah.
The pros have pro drivers, obviously.
Yeah.
And I think there's maybe a tiny bit performance difference, but they are very similar. But what we saw in the Roar, which is the qualifying for the 24, is that GTD is going to be giving them hell this year. It's going to be, I think there's going to be a lot of mixing and matching through those two classes. And it's going to be really something to see. And so just to go into the classes a little bit deeper, GTD and GTD Pro are sports car based classes. So you have the GT3R, the Huracan GT3 Evo, the Vantage GT3, the AMG GT3 Evo, and the 720S Evo, the 720S GT3, the M4 GT3, and I know there's a couple Ferraris in here as well.
Probably a couple Ferraris.
The 48 GT3 Evo.
Yep.
And I think there's an NSX. Yeah, NSX GT3 Evo. So
it's not as nice as the older ones, but yeah, still nice though.
Yeah,
the Honda NSX,
definitely not as nice. The RCF GT3 as well. So a multiple car class. I love those liveries as well. The number 12 Vassar Sullivan cars, sweet liveries. They always have good ones.
Yeah.
And so those are sports car based. Those are sports car based classes. So those are cars that fans will recognize, that they see on the street, they see in movies, things like that. Whereas LMP3, LMP2, and DPI are not sports car based classes.
They're not going to be cars that you see on the regular roadway because they're not street legal. So as much, I mean, like, I don't think you could really drive those cars in the road comfortably. So
I would say no. And so some of the companies that people will be interested in hearing about for these classes is the chassis makers for LMP2. Trying to remember all of them now. Orica, Dallara, which I don't know if we actually have any Dallaras in this race.
I'm not sure, actually. You have to check to see.
Which would make me a little bit sad because I like that company a lot. For those who don't know, Dallara makes the IndyCar chassis and aero. And they also make it for Formula 2 and Formula 3.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. There's Acura, Ligier, Porsche, Ligier.
And then there's Duquesne and Ligier.
Yeah.
Those are two big chassis makers for LMP3.
And then there's just the Cadillac and then the Acura. So I don't see any Dallara.
So I believe now I'm trying to remember the chassis. The chassis between DPI and LMP2 are the same chassis, I believe, or similar. So like Cadillac doesn't make their own DPI chassis, just for those who are wondering. It's just Cadillac powered.
Yeah.
Same with the Acura. The Acura is Acura powered, but it's not an Acura car. I believe those might be Oricas or Dallaras, but I'm not sure. So like I was saying, there's no you don't really recognize those cars, which is kind of sticking to the Le Mans style thing. So obviously when Le Mans started, it was the highest classes were street cars still. It didn't make economic sense to go out and develop a car that was that you couldn't even drive on the street. So obviously teams were developing cars to win Le Mans. The GT40 obviously is the prime example.
Ford versus Ferrari, obviously a big thing. Yeah.
They still made road versions, whereas now you don't even recognize these cars, which some may love, some may hate. It doesn't really bother me. I love watching DPI, and seeing those things in real life has been fantastic. It's been awesome. They're super fast. One more thing about Daytona 24 is that what people might not have thought of already is the idea of driver changes.
Yeah.
So obviously you don't drive 24 hours by yourself. So a lot of these teams have 4 drivers.
Yeah, 4 drivers.
Some have 3. Some of the sports car teams have 3. And there also are drive limits depending on what class driver you are and what class you're driving. So pros can go longer in their high class. So some people race multiple classes per race.
Oh, wow.
Like they'll get out of a DPI car and get into a GTD car sometimes, right?
That's crazy.
A pro can't race the same time in both, right? So DPI, all the classes have different drive times for depending on the level you are. So if you're a pro, there's different drive times than if you're like a bronze or a silver class driver.
So do you mean the time of the race? Because like the race starts technically at 1:40 p.m. Eastern. Like is that what you meant by like, so at a certain time the pro can now enter the car for the drive time? Like it's like for the first 6 hours.
It's not necessarily like that, but it's like you can. So if you're a pro driver, I don't know the exact times. I had them in my head and now they're gone. But it's like. Let's say 4 hours. So you can only drive 4 hours at one time.
Oh, okay.
And they're serious about it. Like if you get out and it's been 4 hours and 1 minute, you will take a penalty. And you may get disqualified.
And penalties are also, I know from like just from watching because I watched a documentary on like Amazon about the 2017 Le Mans. Penalties in Le Mans, like the 24 hours, are much more intense than like in a regular road race, because in like a road race you get like a 5-second penalty, but sometimes there's penalties up for like it's like 2 or 5 minutes. Like it's again, it's a
Yeah,
24-hour
it
span,
gets bad, right?
but it's like
And
5 minutes in a
so
24-hour track in a 24-hour span. It's a lot of time.
it's
Like
a
it is
lot, right?
yeah,
Like
for
at
sure.
Daytona,
So
I believe that's 2.5 laps, 3 laps
yeah.
almost.
So it's
But
hard to make up the time for sure, because I
it
do remember
definitely
a
is.
time at the 2017 Le Mans where I think it was maybe Mark Webber's team. It was Mark Webber's team that he was in. They got a time penalty, and he had to like sit there and wait, or like they were waiting, and it was like a couple
Yeah,
minutes for sure. Like it was
it's
2 or
bad
3 laps.
sometimes.
So
It obviously depends on
mhm.
what class you're in and what the penalty was. Like, so what I saw, I was watching the Michelin Cup
Right,
Challenge race
earlier today,
earlier
yeah.
today, and a couple cars ran a red light at the end of pit lane. So if you're exiting the pits and there's a red light,
Yeah.
it means that you have to stop.
Yep.
And some teams ran that. So the penalty to running the red light at the end of the pits is you have to come in,
Yep.
and then you have to. So it's a full stop,
Mhm.
like a stop worth of time. So obviously you're gonna do stuff to the car. You're gonna change tires and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But also, you have to wait another 60 seconds. So it's another minute,
Yeah.
right? So it's things like that, and then there could be fines and disqualifications depending on what the penalty is.
Yeah, I guess depending on how aggressively you speed out of that, like if you go
Yeah,
right away, because I understand like the fact that the red light is there obviously to protect so that you don't go out into traffic and then you go cause a crash, and that's why it's
yeah,
there. So it's like if you do that, you're clearly breaking the rules, and you're a danger to the track for sure.
for sure.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up? Before we
Um,
conclude?
just to talk about driver changes is one like couple seconds longer. It's very quick. Like it's way
Yeah.
quicker than you think anyone could come in and out of a car. So depending on the class, like don't think it's just like empty. Like there's obviously like cages. Like there's usually an NX bar where you
Yep.
would slide your legs in. So you have to kind of go over that. But usually depending on the class, it's the other driver is waiting on the barrier in the pit. As soon as
Yeah.
they pull in, they open the door.
Drag it out.
The driver has unclipped their own harness,
Yeah.
and they are getting out. And as they're getting out, they are switching everything over. So, right, like your radio control, it
Yeah.
needs to be plugged back into the new driver's helmet.
Yeah.
They sometimes you'll see in, I'm sure you'll see in Daytona,
For sure. Yeah.
the driver will have a seat with them because each driver is a little bit different, right?
Right.
So if you're tiny and your co-driver's huge, you
Mhm.
can't sit in the same seat as him, right?
Yeah.
So they make seat covers, like a form that you
That's
can bring
crazy.
with you. And so you throw it in before you get in. And then usually the driver who just came out doesn't leave. They turn back around and they clip you in and do everything for you and before you go. And then while you're doing those, your pit crew is
Yeah.
doing the tires, the fuel, aero adjustments, things like that.
Because I've seen a few like memes of photos of like drivers being pulled out, and it was a meme about F1, but I've seen where it's like the door opens, someone's getting dragged out, like a crew member is dragging the driver out, and there's another driver like entering the car. And I
Yeah.
think it was a meme with like Bottas and Russell, because it was like Bottas was getting dragged out and then Russell was going into the seat.
Yeah.
So it's something like along those lines, but it's like something similar to that where again it's so quick. Again, it's like an F1 pit stop. It's like within matter
Yeah.
of seconds, if it's like
It's
boom,
nuts.
in
And it can
out.
make or break it, right?
For sure.
Like if something goes wrong during your driver change and you lose 10, 15, 20 seconds, depending on where you are in the race, that could lose or win you the race, right?
Yeah, it could be
Like,
a huge difference.
okay,
So.
first pit stop, not a big deal. You can make that up.
Last pit stop though?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
getting towards the last few hours of the race, because over 24 hours the gaps grow immensely.
Yeah.
It's not like Formula 1 where obviously there's big gaps, but it's like it's laps and laps and laps of gaps sometimes, right? But then depending on strategy, like if you're running third and let's say you're 3 laps behind the leader,
Yeah.
you have to now decide when you should pit or depending on when they pit to how you gain time instead of them gaining time, right?
I'd say I feel like the strategy is much more crucial compared to other races in like a regular 60 70 lap Formula 1 race, or even like a Daytona, like a NASCAR race as well, compared to like when you have the 24-hour race. For sure, you have to figure out when's the right time to pit to maximize your ability to get the
100%.
laps back for sure. So
pit stops are long.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're just coming in for a 25-second pit stop. It's not how it works, right?
No.
So especially in Le Mans and also in Daytona as well,
Yeah.
they change a lot of components on cars during the race that typically you wouldn't change during the race. I'm
Yeah,
talking like full brake systems, right?
well, because
Like
I'm just trying to think of
full
the
rim, like
yeah.
changing everything.
No, for sure. Because to that point as well, like sometimes, especially if there's an incident, if like say like so, let's say for example, a driver collides with another driver, they'll literally like they'll try to replace as much as they can of the car.
Yeah,
Now, what's interesting as well is it was because you talked about brake calibers, and it was going back to the movie Ford versus Ferrari. It's like when obviously Ford was the first team to do that, where they replaced the whole brake caliber, and it was like unheard of at the time because
yeah,
they were replacing a whole part because the brakes were shot, and then he gets the new brakes and then he ends up going to win the race and stuff like that.
yeah,
So
100%.
it's just crazy the fact that like again in this type of race they're changing full on parts. The pit stop might be a couple minutes. It might just be it's not going to be like a a 2 second pit stop. Like they're not just changing tires and just getting gas. They're
Yeah,
so. But that will do it pretty much for our show. Thank you guys for
sweet.
watching. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out the intermissionsports.com for more
And
content.
watch Rolex 24.
Yes, we're going to be watching
It'll
it
change your
tomorrow.
life.
Yes, indeed. Alrighty. Have a nice night.